Now, there are curiosities I find um, when I look through these old magazines. And um, one that I found here in the Sports Forecaster 2001-2002 is actually kind of funny um, because in some way they're timeless, and in some way they're kind of the same stuff we're talking about now. Just this was before the time of advanced stats and all that, and yet we still had our own way of saying certain players aren't very good at things. I haven't seen anything like this in a book since then that I know of, and it makes me rethink a few things. So let me go through this. The Dirty Dozen Awards. So these are awards for not great things. The Brett Hull Award for Worst Defensive Forward. Now, before I even get to that, Brett Hull, before the end of his career, won Stanley Cups. And he wasn't the worst defensive forward by the time he was finished playing. Playing in Detroit, he became a more well-rounded two-way forward. But he was bad defensively at the time this was made. So, worst defensive forward. The nominees are Valeri Bure from Calgary, was almost as effective checking from the press box. Pavel Bure of Florida doesn't realize his team has a goalie too. And Marius Cherkovsky, Islanders. Sorry, we ran out of Bures. And the winner, Pavel Bure. Brett Hull wouldn't even come back to claim his award. Mel Bridgman Award for Worst GM. Mel Bridgman was, yeah. Bob Clark in Philly didn't trade Lindros to improve his team. Stubbornness cost him again. Glenn Sather and the Rangers. Maybe the budget wasn't the problem at Edmonton. Harry Sinden, Mike O'Connell, Boston. Any veterans they haven't alienated? Mike O'Connell. And the winner's Bob Clark. Mike O'Connell took this team from middle of the pack and just they nosedived. He was just terrible to all of the veteran players. He was the one that traded Bork. It was him. And Sinden towards the end of his run. Harry Sinden wasn't any better. Worst hands. Ken Danico of New Jersey. Repeat finalist, no goals in 77 games. Mike Rathje of San Jose. No goals in 81 games. If only he hadn't missed a game. And Matthias Norrstrom of Los Angeles. No goals in 82 games and 13 playoff games. A perfect season, making him the winner. Worst skater. The Brad Marsh Award. Richard Smellick of Buffalo. Could be lapped by a Zamboni. Peter Worrell of Florida. No, you tell him he's nominated. Dave Andreychuk of Buffalo. Skates like Rocky Balboa's beloved Adrian. And the winner is Richard Smellick. I like the Worrell thing. No, you tell him he's nominated. Steve Casper Award for Worst Coach. Don Hay in Calgary. Lost the room, lost his job. Butch Goring in the Islanders. Okay, he was coaching the lowly Isles, but a 17-40-5 record. Terry Murray in Florida. The team had too much talent to be that bad. And the winner is Terry Murray, who actually was a good coach. Brian Lawton Award for Worst Developing Prospect. Chris Phillips in Ottawa, first overall. Just how bad was the 96 draft? See, and it's funny, because Phillips never became the dominant defenseman that he was supposed to be, but he became a pretty damn good defenseman, and he had a really good career in Ottawa. And just in general, I would say that he was a good player, and I would have taken him on the Canucks, definitely. And the Bruins, certain points of time. Manny Malhotra, the Rangers, come out wherever you are. Malhotra too. The expectations on Malhotra were too high. He was never going to be that player. Danis Zubris, maybe this season he'll score 15. Zubris, again, he became a decent player. Winner is Chris Phillips. Red Ink Award for Worst Plus Minus. Zdeno Chara, minus 27. Mark Parrish, minus 27. Both with the Islanders. That's right, on most nights the Isles would take a tie. David Harlick of Atlanta, minus 28. No goals in 65 games didn't help. Patrice Brisebois, minus 31 in Montreal. They don't call him Briseby for nothing, and the winner is Patrice Brisebois. They did call him Briseby, but I never thought he was that bad. Marty McSorley Award for Cheap Shot of the Year. Nominees are Ty Domi of Toronto, went over the penalty box glass to soak a fan in Philly. Ty Domi of Toronto knocked out Scott Niedermayer with a cheap shot. And Ty Domi of Toronto claimed self-defense and Niedermayer attack, all of the above. Alexander Daig Award, biggest waste of money. Mark Messier, Rangers, $4.8 million for a -25. Sanders Ozolin of Carolina, $4 million for a -25. Jyrki Lumme, Phoenix. No, wait, seriously? $3.6 million for what? And the winner is Sanders Ozolin. The Alexei Yashin Award for Worst Playoff Performer. Alexei Yashin, Ottawa. Well, it is his award. 1 assist in 4 games. Roman Cechmanek in Philly, a 2-4 record with an .891 save percentage. Oops. And Adam Oates in Washington, 0 points in 4 games. And he's upset with the Caps, and the winner is Alexei Yashin in perpetuity. Denny Lemieux Award, Worst Goaltender. The nominees are Damian Rhodes of Atlanta, went 7-19-7 with a 3.36 goals against in 38 games, heading down the roads to ruin. And Rhodes really fell quick. It was ugly when he got to Atlanta. John Graham in Boston was somehow 3-4 in 10 games despite an .867 save percentage. I remember Graham getting buried by John Tortorella in Tampa. Just buried. And I couldn't blame Torts for I mean, John Graham wasn't a great goaltender, but he was a really nice guy. And Tortorella just threw him under the bus and then ran him over about 6 times with it. Tyler Moss from Carolina. Why did Artur Survey play 77 games? Simple. Tyler Moss had an .853 save percentage in 12 games, and the winner is Tyler Moss. Amityville Horror Award. Time to Get Out. The nominees are Mark Messier, the Rangers. Please Don't Get Any Worse. We Love You, Mess. Adam Graves, San Jose, a shadow of his former self. And Chris Chelios, Detroit. Oh, yeah. He's with Detroit now. The winner is Mark Messier. Chelios won Stanley Cups in Detroit. So, you know, it's funny how 2 of those 3 are Stanley Cup, or not. Well, not just Stanley Cup winners, but they're legends, Hall of Famers. They're talking about European wildcards. Oh, breaking through. Let's see which ones they got wrong, because they're so right about all their awards, right? David Tanabe in Carolina was awesome in the playoffs last season. Is just itching to take over as Hurricanes' top all-around blue liner. Brad Isbister with the Islanders will benefit from the additions of Alexei Yashin and Mike Pekka on Long Island. Isbister will close in on Brendan Shanahan numbers. There are few players who've played in Vancouver that I have ever yelled at the screen, why is this guy in the NHL? Brad Isbister's one of those guys. He wasn't included in my list of least favorite Canucks because he's not worth it. He wasn't here long enough. He was, what the hell's going on? Are the cats like taking ownership of me or something? What the frick? Cat hair everywhere. Bloody cats. But yeah, Isbister was bad. Like he was half of a Jan Bulis. And a Jan Bulis is about 1/10 of a Rick Nash in his prime, which is about 2/3 of an Ovechkin. So he was, let's see, 2/3 divided, carry the denominator. No, forget it. Maxim Afinogenov. After teasing the Sabres for 2 seasons, a speedy Russian finally emerged as a major force up front. I can't wait for that. I kept reading how Afinogenov was another Bure. Jochen Hecht in Edmonton. Huge offseason trade gives the slick German a chance to shine with the Oilers. Will be used in every situation. Nope. On the rebound. Nothing really in there that's all that interesting. On the rise. So these are guys who are on the rise. Tommy Kallio of Atlanta showed flashes of scoring potential in his rookie season. Will continue to improve his production on the up-and-coming Thrashers. I think the Thrashers have a real shot this year. Carl Wakunik in Ottawa shows both the poise and scoring potential of a future #1 blue liner. Will continue to see power play time with the Sens. No. Patrick Steffen of Atlanta will no longer be asked to carry the franchise on his shoulders alone. Steffen remains the team's main man up the middle for many years to come. This magazine's prophetic. See, I miss. They're not this big anymore. They don't have this many articles where you can look back later and laugh at them. Marcus Nilsson in Florida. Known more for his stellar defensive work, Nilsson will continue to improve his offensive game along with several of his Panther teammates. I wonder if this Marcus Nilsson played with Kent Nilsson from the 80s, if they would cancel each other out. I can't score. I can't play defense. What do we do? I don't know. The puck's going to drop. Ah! You go that way, I go this way. We're always offside. Why are we always offside? Foreign invasion, Yuri DePita. Oh, I remember when DePita came over. The much ballyhooed center will finally get to strut his stuff in the NHL. He should be a force as the Flyers' third-line center. I think this magazine misunderstands the word force. To quote Princess Bride, that word, you keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. However he says it, I don't care. Andreas Johansson with the Rangers had a 20-goal season with Ottawa in 98-99, but hasn't done much when placed in defensive roles. In New York, he may not have a choice. And he didn't. I don't think he played. Tony Verta in Minnesota. Seasoned Finnish veteran has an excellent shot at making the Wild roster in 01-02. He should fit right in with Minnesota's trapping style. He trapped himself right out of the NHL. I don't even know if he played a game. Ravil Gusmanov in Minnesota appeared in just 4 games with the Winnipeg Jets in 95-96. Now he's the latest European veteran to take his shot with the Wild. Nope. Camille Piros in Atlanta, acquired at the trade deadline for Donald Adet last year. Piros could emerge as a top 6 forward with the Thrashers. Nope. Keep an eye on. Where you headed, bud? Okay. When are you coming home? Okay. All right, just be careful. Well, yeah, I need that in the morning for work. So just be careful with that. Okay, keep an eye on. Kevin Weeks in Tampa Bay. Still young enough to become a number 1 goaltender. Thought he did just that with the Lightning last season. The team thought otherwise. Sergei Berezin in Phoenix already surpassed the 35-goal plateau with the Leafs. Remember that, Toronto fans? Now, with as much ice time as he wants, he could close in on 45 goals as a Coyote. Oh, why not 60? 80. He'll score 90. Oh, God. Give me a break. Espen Knutson in Columbus. After much fanfare in Europe, Knutson finally delivered the goods in the NHL last year. Does he have another surprise in store this season? No, which is too bad because Espen Knutson is a fantastic name, and I really was hoping he'd play well. Dark horses. These are the guys who might just break through. Jonathan Girard in Boston. If given more playing time, the slick rear guard might rack up impressive point totals. May need to refine his defensive game in order to stick, however. Not going to happen. It's been 15 years if it hasn't happened by now. Peter Tenkrat of Anaheim has a scoring touch and decent size from the wing. Tenkrat could push more established vets for playing time. Nope. Yuri Butsayev in Detroit is considered more of a checker but could see significant playing time, may rack up points due to a loaded lineup in Detroit. Nope. Cameron Mann in Dallas. Finally out of Boston, Mann has goal-scoring instincts. If he ever finds consistency, look out. Cameron Mann was one of the most frustrating players I ever watched. Matt Fraser, Matt Fratton, those are 2 guys who sort of remind me of that same thing. You see glimpses, and there's potential, and he doesn't quite get there. And you know he's right on the verge of being useful, and then useless breaks out. And that was Cameron Mann. Josh Holden of Vancouver. Holden's running out of chances with the Canucks. Has the potential to play a complete game, but must produce early and often this time around. He ended up in Toronto, and then I'd like to apologize to Leafs fans for that. Peter Shastlevy in Ottawa. There may finally be room in Ottawa for the gifted playmaking winger. Shastlevy could help make up for the loss of Alexei Yashin. Well, Shastlevy can also score no points in the playoffs, so in that way he's the equal to Yashin. Chris Nielsen in Columbus did well in limited duty with the Blue Jackets last year. Came up as a center, but could be needed to fill a role at right wing. And Nielsen sort of reminds me of some of these guys we hear about now, who if he's given the right shot, he'll break through. Just wait for it. He's young. Sometimes they don't. Chris Nielsen was a good example. And Nielsen, I watched a few games of his with Columbus, and I thought he had the potential, and it just didn't happen. All right. Dennis Arkhipov. Well, Arkhipov was all right. Sleepers. Uri Kolnick of the Islanders. Former junior scoring sensation could emerge as a goal-scoring machine on the island. Kolnick, baby, tried with Alexei Yashin. Machine. Force. Machine. This guy's going to be a machine, man. They're way overestimating. Even back when this magazine came out, this was overestimating everybody. Josh Green in Edmonton missed most of last season with a shoulder injury. Green has scoring ability and size on the wing. Should be monitored closely. Very useful as an extra forward, not a top 6 potential guy, though. Sergei Varlamov with St. Louis was outstanding during last year's AHL playoffs. Nifty Varlamov must compete with several others for a roster spot, but has intriguing skills. Forgot all about him. I don't think he's related at all to Semyon Varlamov in Colorado. I think it's a relatively common Russian name. But I mean, like, they got pages after pages of, oh, this guy's a sleeper, and this guy's going to be a force, and this guy's going to be great. Don't overrate. So these are guys who are gonna nosedive. Dave Scatchard in the Islanders, a consistent producer for the Islanders last year. He's back to a more familiar role as the third line center between Yashin and Pekka. And his most familiar role is taking high sticking and hooking penalties. And he really enjoys taking slashing penalties. Scatchard was really good at that. Especially, when you can't afford to take a penalty. He really enjoyed doing that. On the decline, John LeClaire, Chris Chelios, Sean Hill, Vincent Domfus, Trevor Linden in Washington was the key to Washington's Stanley Cup hopes last year. Much like Linden's offensive games these days, those hopes crashed and burned. And it wasn't fair to Linden either. He's not a guy you build a Stanley Cup champion around. No offense to Trevor, but even the 94 Canucks weren't built around Trevor. They were just a very deep, solid, excellent team. Hockey's young guns. Okay, so this is your future watch, your future stars, and 0102. These guys are going to be great. Number 1, Rusty Klesla, one of the best and most complete young rear guards to come along in a long time. No. Number 2, Rick DiPietro, the Islanders, may now have enough of a supporting cast to win his share of games in 0102. Nope. Number 3, Christian Huselius. Slick Swede could provide another scoring dimension for the Panthers. Nope. Number 4, Mika Nironen of Buffalo will battle Martin Biron to see who replaces the Dominator as number 1 man. Nope. And they have Kovalchuk. He stands out because he's an actual player. 6, Jeff Gilson of San Jose. Ruck hard defender, has all the tools, and may see time on the power play. Nope. 7, Danny Heatley. 8, Dan Kachuk for St. Louis. Has a clean slate with the Blues, who could have openings at the pivot position. Nope. Number 9, Brian Allen. Injury woes are behind. Now it's time to earn regular duty with the Canucks. Good defenseman. I wouldn't say he's a Calder candidate, though, and that's what this thing's trying to tell me. 10, Eric Chouinard of Montreal. Can play either left wing or center and has the scoring touch the Habs sorely lack, needs a legit chance. Guy Chouinard was fantastic. Eric Chouinard less so, and Mark Chouinard even less than that. Mika Kiprasov's in at 11 for San Jose. Number 12, Lundmark of Rangers. 13, Nikita Alexiev. Physical package is awesome. May put up points right away. 14, Yanni Rita with Edmonton. One of the best players outside the NHL last season. May impact Edmonton thanks to gritty style. 15, Christian Berglund of New Jersey. Has a versatility in an all-around game that is typical of a Devils forward. 16, Panikarovsky. 17, Spezza. Spezza's below Panikarovsky. Spezza's below. 18, Toby Peterson of Pittsburgh. AHL scoring star may get a legitimate shot at regular playing time. 19, Rico Fata in Calgary has a lot to prove this season and might have an impact in Calgary due to world-class speed and improved defensive play. 20, Chris Beach of Pittsburgh could force his way onto the roster this season and stay there for the next decade. He spent, I think, 4 games in Vancouver, scored 1 goal, and they traded him right away. And I was like, how bad are you that they traded for you a week ago and they decided you are no longer in our plans? No offense to Chris Beach. It stands out when a guy lasts less than 10 games with the team before he gets traded again. Rick Barry of Colorado can put up decent numbers from the point and drop his gloves as well. What's not to like? No relation to Tyson Barrie, who got a very good deal today. Nobody goes to arbitration. I said arbitration is bad. Avoid it at all costs. And all the GMs listen to me. You're welcome. 22, Lee Gorin of Boston. Maybe tagged as a checker in Beantown, although he's capable of more. He really isn't. Pierre Dagenet in New Jersey. Skating concerns may hamper his chances, but his hands are gold. Again, they're using words they shouldn't be using with these players. Really, really, really are. And Brian Giunta is 24, so he's below the guy with the golden hands. And then they get into the Olympics. This was '02, so this was um, when we won. It was funny. I remember the 2002 gold medal game, and I'm working at a call center, and it's Canada U.S. and all of our customers are from the U.S. and we're supposed to pretend we're in the U.S. So we have to, oh yeah, no, we're American. The weirdest part of that was I would come home at the end of the day and I'd listen to my family talk and I'd be like, I hear the Canadian accent. There is a Canadian accent. And I would hear it for about the first 10 minutes after I got home. And then everything would fade and I'd be talking the same as they were and I didn't hear the Canadian accent anymore. But and we do have an accent. I didn't believe it until I talked to Americans all day and came home and I'm like, no, there it is. But while I'm talking to this guy on the phone, he's got the game on. In our cyber lounge, the game's on, and the cyber lounge is maybe 100 feet from where I am. Canada scores. This cheering is huge. It's thunderous. He can hear it over my headset. And he goes, "So I'm calling Canada, huh?" It's like, "Yep." I didn't even try. I was like, you know what? We're caught. I'm not supposed to admit it, but we're caught. Yep. Yeah, huh? And you could tell that he's pissed because his internet's not working. Now the US is losing, and he's talking to a Canadian who he figures is pretty smug about it. And I kind of was. Yeah, the '02 Olympics were fun. Let's see. And then it gets into all the projections of who's going to be, scoring what. And of course, hindsight's 2020. Vancouver was coming off of a 90-point season. I think Toronto was actually pretty good at that point, too. Unrestricted free agents. Anybody interesting in here? Greg Adams. Yeah, this was when Greg Adams was let go. Florida, that was his last season. I don't think anybody signed him. The veteran winger's become somewhat of a hired gun in the NHL. Adams has been working on one-year contracts for the past several seasons. Furthermore, he has been signed well after the year gets underway. His reputation as a goal scorer remains intact, although he only managed 11 goals in 60 games with the Panthers last season. Injuries and age have taken a toll on Adams, who's looking to play his 18th season in the NHL this year. Greg Adams was fantastic. Murray Barron. Barron's been a solid NHLer for 12 seasons by keeping his game simple. He's a lunch pail type who looks after his own end first. Barron is very strong, doesn't mind roughing it up, and stands up for his teammates. Joseph Baranek. Fucking Baranek. The veteran Czech was expected to provide far more offense for the Penguins last year. Instead, he was Baranek. Oh, I'm sorry. Instead, he settled into a checking role and produced mixed results. Baranek can play on the wing or at center. It doesn't really matter because he's useless. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not what it says. Although his effectiveness has always been greatly reduced in the middle. His effectiveness? Furthermore, he's only reached the 20-goal mark once in his NHL career, despite the capability of being a rather legit shooter. Yeah, but he doesn't shoot. And he didn't. He never did. He's useless. Absolutely useless. Interesting. Mark Bergevin, the longtime NHLer, was a positive influence in the Pittsburgh Penguins dressing room last year, following a trade from St. Louis. However, Bergevin's playing skills have diminished over the years. He's still an effective stay-at-home type, but can no longer be counted on as a regular contributor. And Mark Bergevin was known at the time as the funniest player in the NHL. And I never was in the NHL, so I can't speak to it. But apparently, in terms of playing pranks on his teammates and just keeping things loose in the dressing room, he was the best at it. That's why when I saw him after the Subban Weber trade, and he just looked old and he looked haggard, and I thought, wow, this is a guy who was universally recognized as the most fun guy to hang around in the world. He's been a GM in Montreal for a while, and it's aged him 20 years. Who else is of interest in here? That's not of interest. Neither's that. They highlight the guys in blue that should be of interest. Louis DeBrusk, 39 games in Phoenix with no points. DeBrusk has never fulfilled his potential as a premier enforcer. Now he's a frequent scratch and doesn't do much when he does play. Even though he has very good size, he doesn't fight nearly as much as he used to. Well, nobody would fight him. DeBrusk was massive. Nobody went anywhere near him. I don't blame them for not wanting to fight him. Kevin Dineen, Columbus, 66 games, 15 points. The end may be near for one of the NHL's ultimate warriors. Dineen had a decent season at age 37, scoring 8 goals and adding 15 points in 66 games. Now it's his work with young players and in the dressing room that is his biggest strength. And of course, he became a decent coach. Who else? Dallas Eakins is in here. He played for Calgary 17 games. Eakins is your basic journeyman defenseman. Whenever injuries pile up the NHL level, Eakins is usually summoned. Each preseason, Eakins must prove his worth all over again, and the 2001-2002 training camp will be no different. So, he's now a coach as well. Rory Fitzpatrick. Vote for Rory. Journeyman minor league defenseman has now had stints with 5 different NHL organizations. Who else of interest? I'm actually kind of looking for coaches. Like, who else was a coach? Glenn Healy. Released by the Maple Leafs in July, the veteran backup netminders hopes to catch on for what could be his final NHL season. Healy's best work is done behind closed doors. He's a vocal leader and a perfect number 2 goalkeeper. However, his play of late has left a lot to be desired. Healy can only hope that a team needs his experience and leadership more than his skills from its second-string netminding. Kevin Hatcher, 57 games, 4 goals. Hatcher's always produced offensively. Unfortunately, the rest of his game continues to be far below expectations. The 6'3", 230-pound blue liner is immune to the physical game, which has never endeared himself to his coaches. Furthermore, he has a propensity to cough up the puck at crucial times. Still, he's capable power play point man and offensive catalyst. However, even his production's been on the decline in recent years. So that was towards the end of that. And then the lockout took him and his brother, Darian, out of the NHL. Just cut that off. So that's all 102. And as I said earlier, Barrie signs with Colorado 4 years, $5.5 million each. So there you go. All the trades we were waiting for all summer, and we got squat, nada, zilch, zero. I honestly don't see any trades happening now. Now that Barrie's signed for a decent cap hit, I don't think there's any rush to trade Shattenkirk for Colorado. They don't need help at center, so the whole idea of going to these guys and getting Krejci makes no sense for Colorado whatsoever. Makes no sense for Boston either, because they're not exactly insanely deep at center. They need Krejci and Bergeron as their top 2 centers. So the idea of trading one just enrages me. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, because it's Sweeney. And Sweeney has proven to me over the last few years that he'll trade Boychuk, he'll trade Hamilton, he'll trade anybody I like. So I wouldn't be surprised if he trades Krug right after signing him for 4 years. I don't know what to expect from him. Anyways, that's it for me. That'll probably be it for the night, unless something else comes to mind. I just figured that looking back at the 01-02 yearbook, which this probably is my favorite because it's just massive. Like, it's got 274 pages in it, and it was only, I think, $9. That's what it was. Usually it probably is. It's probably just like the potential. The thing with the potential, the reason I couldn't find the potential in NHL 17, I feel like I should explain this. I'm looking for stars. I'm looking for stars. I always look for stars, even though the potential's been something else. And I look under a certain part of their profile, not their main part of the profile. Like, it's just, yeah. I'll get used to it. Because potential makes all the difference in NHL 17 in order to make a trade. It's stupid. It's really stupid. Because you will always find a prospect that probably will never work out who has a higher rating for trades than a solid second line top 6 forward. So you'll be able to pick up a solid top 6 forward from a contending team for a prospect. And they're like, oh, wow, we can't believe you're making this trade with us. And it's like, yeah. Hopefully that's been fixed this year. I'll be interested to see how the AI works this year. But you're flying blind with a beta. You get just limited, here's what we're showing you. That's it. Anything behind this line, you don't get to see it until the game comes out. That's just how betas work. So anyways, thanks for watching. This has been fun, and I'll talk to you again later.